Sayf al-Dawla, the great patron of Arabic culture. Sayf al-Dawla, the sword of the domain, or his full true name, Ali ibn Abu al-Hajjaj Abdallah ibn Hamdan ibn Hamdun ibn al-Harith at-Taghlibi, was one of history's greatest patrons of Arab culture and the founder of the emirate of Aleppo, and the main figure behind the consolidation of the Hamdanid dynasty, encompassing most of what is modern-day northern Syria and parts of western modern-day Iraq and southeastern Turkey. Sayf al-Dawla is considered the most prominent member of the Hamdanid dynasty, a 12er Shia-based dynasty that rose up during the breakup of the Abbasid Caliphate and their loss of control over their domains, in an era that was categorized by constant warlordism between various factions and groups that rose up as the Abbasids lost more and more control over their domain. The Hamdanid dynasty was just one of several dynasties that managed to get local power and create smaller polities all around the Middle East in the 9th and 10th centuries. And during the early 940s, Sayf al-Dawla, together with his brother Nasir al-Dawla, tried to take over the Abbasid Caliphate's capital of Baghdad after the death of the Abbasid commander Muhammad ibn Ra'iq, the commander of all the Abbasid commanders. Though these attempts failed, and Sayf al-Dawla and his brother would turn back towards Syria, where they would fight against the Ikhsid dynasty to a stalemate. But the most important part in the history of Sayf al-Dawla was the wars and conflicts with the Eastern Roman Empire that would occur at several times during the reign of Sayf al-Dawla and his brother, who acted as a co-ruler but eventually got overshadowed by his younger brother. As Sayf al-Dawla, through his assumption of control over the Syrian and Western Iraqi territories in 945 to 946, emerged as the chief Arab prince facing the Eastern Roman Empire and its expansion, and warfare with the Eastern Roman Empire became the main preoccupation of Sayf al-Dawla and his older brother, Nasir al-Dawla. Some context for this is that by the early 10th century, the Eastern Roman Empire had gained the upper hand over their Eastern Muslim neighbors. The onset of decline in the Abbasid Caliphate after the anarchy at Samarra was followed by the Battle of Lalakhawn in 1863, which had broken the power of the border emirates and marked the beginning of the gradual Eastern Roman Empire's encroachment on the Arab borderlands. Also, in the early 10th century, the Eastern Roman Empire had succeeded in pacifying the Balkan front, and now they were looking to expand eastward, turning their attention towards the rich Middle East as an area for conquest. However, in their way stood the Hamdanid dynasty with Sayf al-Dawla as their chief commander, and Sayf al-Dawla became an obstacle for this Eastern Roman expansion, as Sayf al-Dawla proved to be a very competent commander and successful in facing the Romans, and thus managed to garner support for his Islamic Arabic counter-jihad against the Christian Roman expansion, as people saw him successfully defeat the Romans, and thus joined under his banner, as he became a rallying figure against the Roman expansion. And though his dynasty, the Hamdanids, were eventually defeated by the Eastern Romans, Sayf al-Dawla did manage to bring them many defeats on the battlefield until his death in 967, when he died due to illness, not due to getting killed in battle. Sayf al-Dawla's emirate would become a vassal state tributary to the Eastern Roman Empire due to the 969 Treaty of Safar. But Sayf al-Dawla would leave a lasting legacy that goes beyond just his resistance to the Romans, and I will tell you why. Parallel to Sayf al-Dawla's rise and conflicts with the various entities around him, he also entered into various internal conflicts, and Sayf al-Dawla's consolidation over his realm was almost constantly challenged by the need to maintain good relations with the native Syrian Arab tribes that he relied upon for his soldiers. Though this was not always possible to achieve, as the Hamdanid dynasty had rebellions against them, not only by Sunnis, but by other Shia groups that were against them. For example, the Kelbi tribe, being mainly Ismaili Shia rather than Twelver Shia, did take part in various major rebellions against the Hamdanid dynasty. And of these various rebellions, the most major was in 955, when a major rebellion broke out against the Hamdanid dynasty and against Sayf al-Dawla. The suppression of this major revolt in 955 marked the end of great revolts against the Hamdanids and secured their continued subservience to the Hamdanids. This marked the high point of Sayf al-Dawla's success and power. And the most interesting fact is in how he managed to establish, eventually, control, as he did not do that through great acts of total extermination through warfare and thirst of all the tribes, of all the members of the tribes that opposed him, but by calling upon feelings of solidarity and a shared spirit of Arab values, and thus managed to placate through negotiations and through relatively little bloodshed the various tribal groups. In this, Sayf al-Dawla benefited from the fact that he was an ethnic Arab, unlike most of the contemporary rulers in the Islamic Middle East, who were Turkic or Iranian warlords, who had risen from the ranks of the military Mamluk slaves, or been invited into the Middle East in order to face the threat of the ever-encroaching Christian Romans, and in various wars between various entities in the Middle East. And Sayf al-Dawla had created a greater policy of Arabism, a sort of early proto-nationalism, to rally around and to placate the various Arab groups within his realm, and to unify the various Arab groups against the various foreigners that threatened what was perceived as the Arab way of life. Nationalism and similar ideas before the 18th century is very rare in history. It's not a common thing. So this is pretty unique, in that ethnicity was considered more important than religion, which Sayf al-Dawla, like earlier Hamdani emirs, had actually been pretty lax and tolerant about generally, having been allied to and allowed various groups despite them differing in religious outlook from his own professed Twelver Shia beliefs. The important part was not as much religious affiliation as it was Arabness, similar to how the Umayyads, a previous caliphal dynasty, had focused a lot upon Arab blood purity before. And similar to the Umayyads, the Hamdanids under Sayf al-Dawla favored and promoted those of Arabic blood and Arabic culture over others. This was done in order to ensure the loyalty of various Arabic-speaking groups under the domain of Sayf al-Dawla. And in connection to this, you were considered a true Arab if either you were of Arabic blood or if you had assimilated into Arabic culture and mastered the Arabic high language to such a degree that you were considered as an Arab by assimilation. And this was even more important than religious association. Even if you shared the same kind of Twelver Shia beliefs as the Hamdanids had, or even if you differed in the religious convictions and had other beliefs as your officially professed beliefs. Even Christians, if they were considered Arabic enough, could advance into high positions within the Hamdanid domain. And of course, the flip side to this was that non-Arabs were generally excluded from high positions of power and prestige, with a few exceptions, such as the Kurdish allies of Sayf al-Dawla. though generally Arab blood and cultural belonging were the most important aspects. But still, this focus upon ethnicity as the basis for legitimacy, rather than religion as the primary focus, is pretty unique. And there might be a part of the reason for this in that the Hamdanids were 12 Shia, a minority group, and thus they were forced to appeal to other things than religion in order to get legitimacy. Though Sayf al-Dawla certainly did appeal to religion too, with his united pan-Arabic Islamic jihad against the Romans. But his main focus was upon Arab ethnicity and Arab culture as a unifying force. And part of creating this unifying force to be used against his enemies and to unite people under him was promoting culture, especially shared Arab high culture, with references back to even pre-Islamic customs and ideals. Despite being a smaller entity, the Hamdanid dynasty and its domain became the place for Arabic culture and patronage of Arabic culture. And Sayf al-Dawla would become known as one of the greatest historic patrons of Arab culture. Sayf al-Dawla would become the patron of many great names in the history of Arab high culture. Names such as the great al-Mutanabbī, arguably the greatest Arab poet ever in my opinion, though he has great competition, and who I intend to make a video about in the future. You also have Abu Firas, another great poet, Ibn Nubata, an Islamic scholar famous for his Arabic rhetoric, and the Arabic grammarian Ibn Jinni, and the Neoplatonic philosopher al-Farabi, who combined Neoplatonic philosophy with Arabism and Islamic thinking. A line connecting all of these great names, or that they were all connected to the Arabic tongue, Arab culture, and a type of Arab ideology that was promoted through the strong patronage of Sayf al-Dawla, and bolstered by calls for a united Arab Islamic front against the Eastern Romans and other foreign enemies. It is in this legacy of patronage that served Sayf al-Dawla in his political ambitions that remains to us in our day, a legacy of some of the greatest Arab cultural icons from the medieval period. And his legacy is not only in culture though, as one of the founders of the Alawite Shia sect of 12 Shia Islam, al-Khazibī, was also one of the beneficiaries from Sayf al-Dawla's patronage, meaning that Sayf al-Dawla's patronage also left a religious legacy too, as the Alawite sect is still around in Syria to this day, and is also the group that Bashar al-Assad, the current president of Syria, belongs to. Sayf al-Dawla's reign shows that the warlordism and breakup of the Abbasid Caliphate did not mean the end of Arab high culture, but rather that it continued in different forms and under new patronage by local patrons that invested a lot into developing Arab high culture. An Arab high culture that could be used as part of various political processes and as a means to unify people against what was becoming an ever more dangerous and unstable world in the Middle East. And this was Sayf al-Dawla and his great patronage in context. I hope you liked it and found it interesting. Please like, comment and ask questions. Please do subscribe as it would help the channel spread awareness about the humanities.
اشتركوا بالقناة من فضلكم.